Hello again, and on this episode of Planet Haltech, we've got Pikes Peak, we've got Euro Hillclimb, we've got Time Attack, and we've got Fords. Lots of Fords.
And upgrades. We're all about upgrades, including co-hosts. Now, Scotty, in the 20 odd years that you and I have been here at Haltech, I think this is probably only the second time that we have appeared on film together.
I think they try and keep us apart because when we're together, problems start to happen normally.
I think there's just, you can't have two such good looking fellas in the one video without sending the women wild.
Is that why they normally put me with Richo?
I think so. Actually, Richard's sick, so I hope you get better soon, Richard, sort of. Scotty, so we've got some news from around the world. What do you got for us?
We do. So this is the stuff that we've collected from the Planet Haltech Facebook page and sort of along the traps. The first thing that we've got is our good friend Ovi Sarjan from PT Catalysta.
Hang on, pronounce it again. The where?
PT Catalysta.
All right, so Ovi Sarjan from Indonesia. What's he done?
They've been working on their Yaris. So they've got a 2020 Yaris that is configured in Indonesia as a circuit racing car. Thing's got a 1.5 litre, 4-cylinder engine, 6-speed manual. It's got the Nexus R5 uses an IC7 dash, it's got a 15-button keypad, and they're racing it in the Indonesian Touring Car Championship that's at Sentul International Raceway in Indonesia.
They've got any results? How'd he go?
They've been doing pretty well. So they've been coming in sort of the front half of the group. At the moment, there's probably still about 6 or 7 rounds left. So at the moment, we're hoping to see them in the top 3 or 4 for the finish.
So that's pretty cool from Indonesia. Moving across the ditch, one of the ditches anyway, into Europe, we have some results from the FIA International Hill Climb Cup, where there was a big event happening recently in Slovenia. Matej Grudnik, he finished second in his class. He overcome a bunch of mechanical issues in a Renault Clio that he's got.
And that's extraordinary considering what he had going for him.
Yeah, that's it. It's Matej had this car the week before, Monday before, no pistons. When I say there was no pistons, I don't mean they weren't in the block. I mean they weren't in the building. Supply chain issues preventing them from getting their components till deep into the week, and so they had no engine, no gearbox even. About 4 days out of the event, the thing was still a chassis with bits and pieces in a FedEx box. So for the team to get that together, their first shakedown pass was actually on Saturday at the event. So the car didn't get finished till Saturday morning. And they get out there, did a really good shakedown on Saturday. And on Sunday, the first race, there's 3 races on Sunday. First race, bit of a challenge there. Had to overcome some mechanical issues. This is the first time that car's been out in all-wheel drive configuration. Made a big call on Sunday afternoon. Race 2 went out on dry tyres when everyone else was out on wets. The weather was a bit inclement, but it paid off. Matej set the overall best lap time for that race, and also race 3 backed it up. So secured himself second on the podium. So that's a massive result for the team there. So what else have we got, Scotty?
Mate, the next one is the British Drift Championship that's happening now around England. We've got Dylan Garvey, who's one of the Haltech sponsored drivers there. He's actually winning the event at the moment.
That's pretty impressive. What does he drive?
So he's got a 180SX, and that normally would have had an SR20, but you probably wouldn't have had a heap of reliability with the power they need to make. So RB28.
That's a bit of a weird combo, Scotty. So not a 25, 26 or the 3-litre bottom end that we see so often here. So why 28? What do you reckon the advantage of that is?
28, it's 6-cylinder, it's got plenty of torque, but the 28 gives us heaps of revs on board. So the thing sounds absolutely amazing. You get a heap of grunt, and because you've got that RPM, when you're into those tight corners as well, you can really hold it up and you can get the good noises out of it, and you can use all the gearing.
Yeah, it's impressive. Now, Scotty, moving from Europe over to another ditch over another ocean to the USA. We had the Pikes Peak International Hillclimb happened this month as well.
And if you haven't heard of Pikes Peak, well, you've been living under a rock, because that's probably one of the craziest races in the entire world.
Yeah, I think it's actually the second oldest automobile race in the United States. So it's been running, it runs annually. It's been running for 100 years. This was well, actually it's not true. It's been running for just over 100 years. A couple of years there, it got missed, but this was the 100th running, I guess, during the war, First, Second World War there. There was probably some years it didn't run.
The Sierra Alpha.
Yes.
Now that is a serious hill climb. Open wheels style, would you call it?
Yeah, it's an open wheeler. It's a custom made thing. Anyway, we had Paul Dallenbach.
This is an easy one. Paul Dallenbach.
So he is no stranger to the mountain. He's competed there, I think, 28 times over his long career at the mountain. He's been on the podium, top of the podium, 6 times, 3 times king of the mountain. So absolutely no stranger to the Pikes Peak Hillclimb event. He's done really well. He stood on the podium again in 2nd place in the open wheel class this year. So great effort in his open wheel go-kart looking Sierra Alpha thing. Fun fact about Paul, he's not just a race car driver for this event, he's also a stunt driver. So he's been involved in some Hollywood movies. So you might have seen his work in the Fast and the Furious franchise. You've probably seen the latest one, Ford versus Ferrari. So he's actually quite a well-respected and represented driver.
So here's the nerves of steel. This is kind of this makes a bit more sense.
You say nerves.
So moving closer to home, Maddie, over the weekend we had the Aus Time Attack, which is held at Wakefield Park. Now, Wakefield Park is a racetrack about an hour south of Sydney. It's 2.2 kilometres long, and the all-time track record there is about sort of 53 seconds. So if you're in a street car there, anything under a minute 10 is kind of doing pretty well. Again, the names haven't disappointed again. We've got Artemis Kazangas. He's been in the World Time Attack, the Heroes videos. He's running a Series 1 13B RX-7. It's got an Elite 2500 Series ECU in it. During testing, did actually have a bunch of suspension problems.
Okay.
Then we also had a faulty fuel system, which did result in a fire. They did the best they could to clean that up, and they did actually get back out in the afternoon and set some PBs, so that was fantastic.
Sounds like that fire might have just burned off some unused weight, some unwanted, whatever you didn't need there, burn it out, move it on. It's like a bonfire you used to have at home. Get rid of the trash, move on, right?
If you need Matt on your pit team, he is available.
Cheap.
So next up we had the Stay Tuned guys from Stay Tuned Petrol and Diesel Performance in Canberra. They were competing in their just finished Evo 8, and by just finished, I mean the guys decided, oh yeah, there's a race on this weekend, let's put this car together, let's go, let's compete, and let's give it a crack.
You sure they don't know the guys from the Renault team that were also putting things together the week of?
I think that's just the way that it is. Look, when you run a busy workshop, we absolutely get it.
Seeing a trend.
There's only so much time in the day, and when you've got customers' cars you've got to work on, you know, your car always comes last. But these guys did get out there and gave it a crack. They did really well. So an Evo, so it's an all-wheel drive Evo, they ran a 104.75, which is very, very impressive. But they also had a few gearbox problems throughout the day. So it turns out they were running that car in front-wheel drive only.
Right. So how do you reckon they're going to pick up time in the all-wheel drive? I imagine coming out of those corners, those extra 2 wheels of traction.
They're going to have to. So that car, that probably will end up sub 1 minute. So very, very impressive.
Super impressive.
They're using an IC7 dash, they're using an Elite 2500 to do all the control over the car, and look, we're pretty excited to see that thing go out again for the next event.
Now, I wasn't at the event, but I've seen some photos, and it seems some brickies and some plumbers showed up.
Oh, so this is the super utes that Matt's talking about. So there was a super ute out there doing some laps within that event to do testing so that they can go out for the Super Utes class that runs with the V8 supercars in Australia. They are quick and they are absolute carnage. Those guys know how to bump. They know how to door-to-door race. I love it.
Rubbing is racing, as they say, Scotty.
While I was at Wakefield Park, you went to All Fords Day.
Oh, yes, the Fords. How could I forget? Hey, Scott.
Yeah.
What was the first car that Henry Fordosaurus invented?
I don't know, Matt.
The Model T Rex.
What's on page 4 and 5 of the Ford user's manual?
I don't know, mate.
The bus and train timetable.
It's not funny, Scott.
We're only joking. We love our Fords, and that's why we went to all Ford Day. So tell us a bit about what you saw there and what you liked.
Well, it never ceases to amaze me just how many people love their Fords. I think that all Ford Day there was slightly overrepresented with the number of children named Henry there. So hundreds and hundreds of cars were out, hundreds and hundreds of Henrys were also out there. But this all Ford show, it's got Mustangs, it's got Falcons, it even had some front wheel drive Fords out there. So it's got a bit of everything. As long as it's got the big blue oval logo on the grille, it is welcome at Ford Day.
So what do you think? Over-representation of Barras, or are we talking like old school V8 stuff, or what was the big contender?
You know, there's a bit of everything. Lots of old school V8s, as you'd expect from an all four show, but really what you're starting to see a lot more of is that inline six barra, big turbos, a lot of modern cars out there. It's certainly true that there is still plenty of Ford love left in this nation. Gordy, what about internally? What have we been up to inside of Haltech?
Well, every month we're doing plenty of firmware stuff, plenty of software stuff. But starting off this time, we've got our own Mitch Smith, who is our lead tech support guy, who got interviewed by High Performance Academy. He did a podcast with them. It's about an hour long, and it's at the High Performance Academy website, so check that out. Mitch has done a really, really great job with that. He's spoken to Andre about basically how he started sort of tinkering with cars when he was young, onwards to sort of building cars, then coming to work with Haltech, learning the ropes of engine management, and becoming the guy who he is today.
Now that's a podcast, and that makes sense because Mitch has a head for radio, unlike us good-looking fellas who get to be on the YouTubes here. I think you've been on that too, haven't you?
I did a couple of months ago, so my one would be there as well.
We've also got some firmware updates that have gone live this month.
We do.
Big news there?
We do, and I'm excited about the big one is on the internal map sensor for the range of Haltech Elite Series ECUs. So that's the nipple on the side of the box. That's always been limited to 3 bar or 30 pounds of boost pressure, 3 bar absolute or 2 bar of boost pressure. And things are changing with ethanol, with tuning, with firing cylinder heads, with just performance in general. We know that we're running often more than 30 pounds of boost, so that map sensor has been upgraded. It is now a 4 bar absolute sensor or 45 pounds of boost pressure. So as long as you do a firmware update on your ECU, whether you've got an Elite 550, 750, 950, an Elite 1000, 1500, 2000, 2500, firmware update, and we're away. Put more boost in it and she's good to go.
There you go, 45 is the new 30 pounds.
Well, the next thing we were looking at was the survey, and the survey says...
Yes, survey says, how could I forget? So the survey, we do this annually. It's where we, Haltech, ask you, the consumer, what it is you want from us, from product updates, software updates, how you're modifying your engines, what are the components you use on your engine, what cars you have. We try and get as much information as possible out of you guys so that we can direct our R&D and our engineering team into making the products, designing the products to suit your needs. And so we had a really good response to that. First up, congratulations to the 3 winners of the IC7 Dash that we were giving away for people that entered that survey. And most of all, thank you everybody else for giving us your honest opinions that will direct the engineering team over the next 12, 18, 24 months. So that is awesome. We always like to read those survey responses because we get a real feel for what it is that you guys want, and also allows us to direct what the boffins do for the next 12 months, which is always fun. Now, speaking of being passionate about a particular point of the market, we've got YouTube channels to review now, and I'm particularly excited to show you guys the DIY Classic Mini YouTube channel. And the reason I am excited about this is because this is close to my heart. In fact, what most of you guys wouldn't know is Scotty and I have actually known each other for more than 2 decades. We met working at a workshop. You know, this was just a corner garage where people would, come pump fuel and get their cars worked on, registration, inspections, and those sorts of things. And I was a pimply-faced 15-year-old when I first rocked up to this place in my 1963 Mini. And I drove this thing in there and I said, this thing's not running right. Can you help me? And it wasn't Scotty, but the mechanic that owned the shop. He looked at me once, he looked at me twice, he looked at the car and he said, I tell you what, I'm not touching that thing. I can't get my hands in there, but I will show you how to fix that. And so there began my apprenticeship as an automotive mechanic. And lo and behold, the next weekend, or maybe it was a couple of weekends later, there's this really tall, lanky guy one Sunday working underneath a Mitsubishi Cordia. And that guy happened to be Scott, and that's where we met.
So Matt was there with his Mini. I was there with my Mitsubishi Cordia Turbo that I was replacing one piston at a time. Whenever they blew up, I didn't really know why, but I knew how to replace them and I knew how to reuse a head gasket. So that's what I used to do every Sunday.
Pretty much that was it. And so the DIY Mini channel for me speaks back to that time in my life where I never had skin on my knuckles and I was always cursing at cars. Now the cursing part hasn't changed, but a channel like this actually really would have helped me. But then again, maybe I wouldn't have met a cool guy like Scotty and ended up here, so it's probably for the best.
What do they do on this channel?
Well, the best thing about this, I think, is the level of detail that these guys go into in each individual area. Now, if you're into classic minis, this is super cool, right? Because it's right up your alley. But even if you're not into classic minis, the level of detail that they go into in explaining the simple things is really impressive. Everything from transmissions, engines, most recently installing Haltech ECU and PDM keypad, getting down to the nitty gritty, how to do the wiring, what each wire means, why you want to do things in a particular way. It's actually really well produced and gives you a real level of technical detail, unlike a lot of the channels out there that just give you an overview. Oh, here's the product that we've got, and look, now it's running, as if by magic. Whereas the DIY Classic Mini channel is much more a DIY. This is how you do it. These are the problems that we had. This is how we resolved them.
My YouTube channel is very, very similar to what you're talking about, where mine is Rob Dahm. So if you haven't heard of Rob Dahm, you may have been living under some type of YouTube rock.
Big rock.
He's got 1 million followers plus. He is RX-7 and sort of rotary orientated, which don't hold out against him because that just level sort of adds to the level of detail he needs to go to in rebuilding and rebuilding and rebuilding and rebuilding and rebuilding and rebuilding these engines.
I think what I appreciate about Rob is he does like the rotary engine for really personal reasons, I'm sure, because rotary people are a special kind of people. Take that as you will, take it as you will. Rotary people are a special kind of people, but I don't think he's too attached to it. I think he knows what the rotary engine is and he loves it anyway.
The reality is, when you do it right, mate, these things last. They are a bloody good thing. They sound good, they rev hard, they make good power. Rob knows that, and that's why in the video that I like for this month is Rob and his two-rotor Z06 Corvette conversion.
Yeah, so there's a conversion you don't see every day, a C5 Z06 Corvette converted to 13B.
So this thing, I think originally it was a wreck and then Rob sort of pulled it straight and got it all back together, and then I assume that the LS engine that was in it was removed for a conversion into something else, because if you do have a Corvette, like you don't really have an engine conversion thing because it's like it's an LS conversion. So
I mean, you're already there. GM did it for you.
Corvette and Series 6, 7, 8 RX-7, they're cousin-ish. What I really like about Rob's videos is that he really does go into detail, bit by bit by bit. There's no sort of magic cutting there. So things like in these videos, he's showing us how to set our offset angles using their timing light and using our software in order to synchronize our ignition timing, and goes into depth with things like the traction control strategy that he's using on that Corvette. So he's wired up the 4 factory wheel speed sensors into the Haltech ECU. Then he's using that to do like a percentage slip-based setup. So things like this, I don't normally see on many channels. And when you watch Rob's stuff, you really do come out of it with more information than you started. So that's why I'm into his channel.
That's pretty awesome. So I think we're both on the same page there, Scotty. We like YouTube channels that give us the nitty-gritty detail, that teach us how to get things done, which is probably not surprising given the two of us do the tech videos here too.
And cats. Like watching videos about cats.
I think that's a Richard thing, to be honest. I'm not there with the cats. That might be a bearded thing. And the best part about the Planet Haltech Facebook page is every month we get to pick our favourite ride, our favourite build. Now, Scotty, I really like the look of that GizFab Micra.
So look, I've seen that. So this is Eden Youngs. He's based out of the UK. That's a K11 Micra. So it's got a factory-based engine, but turbocharged.
Nice.
all-wheel drive turbocharged K11 Micra. So K11 normally front-wheel drive, but we've managed to put a center diff there, a rear diff, make the thing all-wheel drive. So planning on entering it into the UK Time Attack Challenge. He has been out at Alton Park Raceway already, cutting a few laps there. And this little Micra, carbon fiber everything, really, really cool thing. It has been breaking some hearts already, and that is one to look out for.
I've seen some videos of that thing lapping there at the track. Very, very impressive.
Now look, if you've got a ride like Eden's that you want us to share or have a bit of a look through, please jump on the Planet Haltech Facebook page and make sure to share as many photos or videos of your build as you can.
And you might just be featured right here on Planet Haltech.
Fantastic. And that's it for this Planet Haltech, Matty.
I think we've done all right, Scotty. I don't have a beard, so I don't think I'm quite the co-host that Richard was, but...
Thanks for standing in. It's been an absolute pleasure as always. And mate, I'm looking forward to doing the next one.
And we'll see you next time on Planet Haltech.
Thanks for watching, guys. If you like this video, smash that like button. We put out a new video every week and sometimes even two. So don't forget to subscribe to our channel for more awesome content.